Hey guys, this Genesis G70 looks pretty cool, huh? Well, free security tools look pretty cool too. So, for example, there's Alienvault Osm. This is a totally awesome free ISO download. You just click this guy here. You get asset discovery, vulnerability management, or I should say vulnerability assessment. You get intrusion detection, behavioral monitoring, SIEM event correlation. This does quite a bit. So AT&T is a cool company, and I give a big shout out to AT&T for being awesome with their Alienvault product. If you would like to give it a try, just go ahead and look for the link in the description below. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into some of the best free security, or I should say some of the best open source SIEM tools. We've got OSM, again, like I just mentioned. That's it used to be just called Alienvault. AT&T bought it out. Awesome job, AT&T, for getting in on the security market. It's a great time. The Elk Stack is an open source alternative that's like totally free, aside from the fact that Splunk is better. And also, you have to keep in mind that the Elk Stack, you're going to have a lot more hands-on work to be done here. So essentially, you're going to have to learn all about Docker if you deploy it that way. Otherwise, you're dedicating an entire server to it, but you still have to spin up your nodes. You got to make your cluster so that way you can have, like I said, you can have those nodes and you get your shards, and then you get the everything indexed, right? So anyway, that can be a little bit of a nightmare to learn all about and make sure that it's not CPU spiking or getting RAM hungry. You never know what type of data stuff you're going to have to be throwing at it and then how it's going to react. So essentially, the Elk Stack is like a trial and error type solution. The Elasticsearch, Logstash, along with Kibana, that the Kibana gives you a nice visual interface. So it makes it competitive to Splunk for little to no budget, but once you start paying for it, you might as well just buy Splunk, in my opinion. You've got OSSec, which is HID's agent. That's a host intrusion detection system. Now, this is mainly good for detecting file system changes. It's basically just one of the IDS detection systems. So OSSec can analyze logs from different commercial network services, but essentially what OSSec mainly does is it is kind of counted, in my opinion, involved with it is kind of counted in being involved within different projects like Waza, if that's how you say it. Otherwise, you can notice that this project is tied into that same Alienvault project we talked about earlier. So if you, for some reason, get your hands on AT&T's SIM or SIEM, whatever, I'm probably going to interchange SIM, SEM, and SIEM throughout this. So just keep in mind that whenever I say SIM, SEM, and SIEM, I really just mean SIEM. So there's SIM, SIM, SEM, SEM, and then SIEM, SIEM. I'm always really meaning SIEM, which is a combination of the two that are not SIEM, right? So yeah, hopefully we know what SIM and SEM is. Anyway, we've got Apache Metron, which is it's basically a unique tool that is able to plug and be extensible regarding Bro, and there's some other utilities for it, but I'm more familiar with SIEM Monster. It's quite a newer tool, but essentially it's quite useful, and I would say that it definitely has earned its way into the market. The Kibana UI for visualizing data, and it's also got the MindMeld UI for threat intel. Definitely something to potentially consider if you're looking to get into that SIEM market. So Prelude, is it's definitely a nice SIEM framework, but it ties quite a few different open source tools together. But you do get intrusion detection, message exchange format. Kind of having all your sources that are thrown. But essentially, what you're going to really like about this is that it's really kind of more for smaller environments. So if you're not like a really large business, this might be what you want. But Security Onion is also quite wonderful. If you're interested in giving Security Onion a try, have no fear. It's definitely awesome because it definitely has other projects that it's kind of piggybacked off of. So you're definitely going to like this if you just want like a well-rounded free solution. So Security Onion, you can't really go wrong. Give it a shot, I guess. Mazda, Mozilla Defense. It's basically it's by the same company, obviously, that created Firefox, and it's an incident response automation tool. What this is able to do is it runs in a Docker container, and then more or less it's a SIEM add-on that runs alongside, or I should say right atop Elasticsearch, and it's able to it's able to have docs read. So if you ever need to go to read the docs to IO and check it out, you can definitely do that. There's also Snort. Snort is a wonderful NIDS, network intrusion detection system, and it's designed for Windows and Linux. This really has a spot in my heart because Snort is a well-rounded packet sniffer, and it's going to sniff your security threats out. So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking to snort things out throughout your network, Snort, of course, does that. And it's also got some features, I think, that are quite wonderful. I'd love to go on and talk all about them, but it's compared to its alternative right here. So we're going to jump right into its alternative, and it's cut into Snort's user base because I mean, it's number one, it is owned by the Open Information Security Foundation, OISF. It's got directly built in, it is built of the LIA scripting language, whose developers market as a small, fast, and embeddable language. All right, honestly, I'm going to tell you right up, this LIA scripting language is kind of pissing me off. I think that's supposed to be Lua scripting language. So, yeah, anyway, I don't honestly know the insides and outs of Suricata. So if you do, then feel free to correct this and me. But honestly, I'm thinking that this is Lua scripting language. But whatever. Whoever wrote this probably feels silly if they meant to type Lua scripting language. But anyways, there's not really one that kind of, wins the match. I mean, other than Splunk hands down. Like, if Splunk was in here, I would say every time, every day, be getting your hands on Splunk, which we'll be talking about in the future real soon here. They do have a free option. Now, there is Arachne, so definitely get your hands on that to play around with it if you want to. It's capable of checking for local and remote file inclusion, aka LFI, RFI. You've got your cross-site scripting injection and structured query language injection, along with Grabber. This is able to do do your backup files verification, cross-site scripting. It's kind of funny how they go from XSS injection to cross-site scripting. But anyway, Iron Wasp, they've got some unique highlights here. For example, it can generate HTML and RTF format reports. It's GUI based, so maybe check out Iron Wasp. There's no go to fail. So this is able to do SSL injection, SSL certificate verification issues, man-in-the-middle attacks. It's a network traffic testing tool from Google. It's lightweight, so definitely check it out if you want. SonarQube, cross-site scripting, denial of service, memory corruption. So yeah, this is a great security testing tool. Check it out if you want. There's also Sql Map or Sql Map. This one is wonderful for testing to see if you've got any sort of structured query language injection going on, SQL injection, SQL injection, whatever you want to call it. There's W3AF. This does buffer overflow, cross-site scripting, CSRF, and it can also do blind SQL injection. This one is it's interesting, I think. I mean, this probably could be useful, but I really think what would be awesome is if someone tied all these tools together behind a web interface and just launched them all off at the same time and then kind of compared all the results. Or you could, for example, have a checkbox system where you get to check which tools are launching your scans and what the target is. That would be really neat in my opinion. I'm kind of surprised that someone's not already totally done that, because it would be really easy to like put that inside of a Docker and wrap it inside of a beautiful framework in a web development language. So you could have basically a web GUI do that. There's Zap attack proxy that does SQL injection, cookie not HTTP only flag, private IP disclosure. There's and this is what it exposes. So I mean, check this one out. I mean, absolutely hands down one of the best free tools you can get. I'd say Zap and Burp, awesome. Top 10 free open source software. We've got Nmap. We've already talked a little bit about OSSec and Security Onion. OpenVAS is your free open source vulnerability scanning and management. So that's kind of awesome. It is a fork of the Nessus engine, which continues development on the open source project. It has a web-based dashboard. So it is nice that you get kind of a web dash. Metasploit framework, Kali Linux, great pen testing OS with a lot of tools, maybe too many. I honestly would prefer the route of creating your own system with all the tools that you want or need and you utilize. There's Nikto, Wireshark, great for capturing your packets and overall protocol analysis if you need to do that. There's Veracrypt. This is a free encryption tool to encrypt your file system. This is more like a security tool type thing if you want to encrypt files. KeePass is good if you're looking to store passwords locally. But yeah, I mean, getting down to the bottom of this, you're really dealing more with like kind of personal security tools. Going into Splunk Free, I think I mentioned this earlier that we're going to talk a little bit about Splunk Free. Splunk gives you the best SIEM in the game, for sure. I mean, these guys nailed it. It's just totally comprehensive, and it's super easy to navigate. It's got a bit of complexity. There's a learning curve, but once you get your hands on it and you start to understand it, this is by far probably your best tool. We've already covered Snort and OSSec. We've looked at OSM. Elasticsearch this ties back to that Elk Stack, right? You got Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, right? So Kibana is the visual interface, the web GUI portion that represents the data. But yeah, I mean, overall, what a SIEM comes down to is you've got event logging, intrusion detection, automated alerts, AI smart threat detection, data filtering and storage, visualization, compatibility, compliance, and you need to be able to correlate your logging data and work it out. So we've already covered this. We've not covered this one. So this works like Snort, and it supports Snort rules. It's real-time multi-threaded event log monitoring system. It's built to prevent blocking, right? So it's easy to install. Memory resources and CPU are quite lightweight. Overall, definitely something to maybe check out. But yeah, as I was talking, the Elk Stack has kind of just been called the Elastic Stack now because they've expanded Elk from being an Elasticsearch Logstash Kibana to also including B at the end. So nobody wants to say Elk B, but I guess you could say Elk B. But yeah, it's all of those including beats. This is a simple, fast log shippers and collectors of data. In my opinion, it's really just a glorified log aggregation agent. They should just call it a log agent, in my opinion. Anyway, it's able to get logs and send them off. You've also got the 21 best Kali Linux tools for hacking. That includes Nmap, Linus, or Linus, I think it's Linus, but WP Scan to scan WordPress, Aircrack NG if you're looking to crack Wi-Fi or check Wi-Fi security. Hydra is able to brute force and crack passwords. Wireshark is good for analyzing networks. Metasploit framework if you're trying to exploit something. It's got some common vulnerabilities. You can test for known exploits. You got Skipfish. This is kind of similar to WP Scan, but it's not just for WordPress. It's a web app scanner. Maltego, it's able to analyze info that's online, and then it kind of connects information all together. It'll create you a graph to help analyze the link between information. So it's good for intel gathering. Nessus is wonderful. It comes with a free 7-day trial. If you want, you can scan websites and find security issues. Burp Suite Scanner, hands down one of the best tools. You've got Beef. This is a browser exploitation framework. If you find a cross-site scripting issue, this is probably one of the coolest things right here to work with. APK tool. This is one of the most popular tools for reversing Android apps. Of course, you should definitely use it for educational purposes only. So yeah, if you're looking at Android apps, definitely APK tool on Kali Linux is a way to go. SQL Map or Sql Map, it's one of the better SQL injection tools. So tying it into like a web GUI and making it simpler for some other people may be awesome to do. You've got John the Ripper. This is great at cracking passwords. I've used this in combination with Hashcat along with RockU to crack my way into Excel documents. Wonderful tool. Snort, definitely. We've already talked about it. Autopsy forensic browser. If you're looking to do forensic work, heck yeah. Kingfisher. There's also GoFish. This is good if you want to just kind of like do some phishing attacks. Nikto, we already briefly went over. This Yersinia, however the heck you say it, it's good for performing layer 2 attacks. Maybe experiment around with this if you want some time. You got Social Engineering Toolkit. This is great for, this is a good social engineering tool set here that you can work with. So wrapping up, let's just say that all of these tools are pretty darn good, but we can't close out without talking about honeypots, right? So number one, what's a honeypot? We're basically just going to create an application that's going to attract malicious attackers to connect into it, and then we're just going to really kind of farm it, right? And just get intel out of them. So we're going to use the attacker against themselves by pretending to be a real system when we are not. We're just logging, right? So the attacker comes in and tries to get in. It's like, oh, wow, I'm in. It's not really in. This is a fake environment. We've created kind of like a fake house, right? They walk in, it's all cardboard, but they don't know that. They're thinking they're in a real house. It's all cardboard. It's all fake. It's all pretend. But we're just looking at it every step of the way. What are they doing? What are their movements? What commands they're executing? What files they get? We're looking at it all. And yeah, they're just like, the attacker kind of is automated going in and just like automatically doing all this stuff. And then we log it all to see what all they did. So then we can kind of see how the attackers are doing the attacks. But so there's a research honeypot and production honeypot. Yeah, so that's kind of like the two main ones. Research is obviously if you're just kind of like just playing around researching it. In production, this is of course if you're like a company running a real network and you're trying to investigate behavior on your network. So how does a honey work? It's just a trap system. So it basically lures people in. So maybe a lot of attacks come on port 22. So you open up port 22. You start pulling in different attacks. It accepts fake authentication. The attacker comes in, and then it just listens to see what SSH commands are being passed along. So here's kind of like your top tools for it. There's Kippo, Cowrite, GlassTopF, NodePot, Google Hack Honeypot, Formidable Honeypot, Black Hole for bad bots, WordBot, Elastic Honey or Elastic Honey, HoneyMySQL, MongoDB, Honey Proxy, HoneyMail, Mail Honey, Spam Hat, Honey Thing, Kako. I don't know how to pronounce some of these, honestly. Honestly, I don't really use some of these, but there's Dione or something, Mini Print, Honeypot FTP, Honey NTP. But yeah, in summary, if you want to play around with honeypots, there's a lot to play around with. Now, another thing to notice is that there are some appliances like HoneyDrive, which just comes with a full LAMP stack with Apache 2, MySQL. It's got phpMyAdmin. Overall, it comes as a single OVA file. It's ready to be imported. You can launch this up. It's got a bunch of tools all together. That way you don't really have to do a whole lot. So these are probably some of the best security tools. Now, just a heads up, if you're ever interested in doing any sort of development, there is Backpack. It's a great admin panel. I would highly recommend learning this framework here. You can get started, you log into a panel, and it's totally free. So you can get your hands on a demo. Here's kind of a demo of what things can look like. Over here on the left side, you can have like Nmap, or you could switch this out and make this say like scanners. So for example, we drop this down, and instead of it saying news, if we can find out where it says news right here, then we could say scanner or scanners. So you drop your scanners down, maybe right here instead of articles, maybe we've got Unmap. And then maybe right here instead of this, we've got ZMap. You just have all sorts of scanners, but essentially what I'm saying is that you can basically create a totally open source toolkit that ties in a bunch of other open source toolkits and all ship it together, package it all together. If it's a non-commercial product, it's totally free, I do believe. And so if you shipped this in like a Docker, you could basically have ZMap, Nmap, all your different scanning tools all packed into one and put it behind this lovely GUI. At that point, you could say, like, we've detected these ports 3389 are open. And then maybe right here's ports 80443. Just lower risk ports. And I've never really noticed anyone really do this, but I do believe in a such thing as like high risk ports and lower risk ports. Like port 80, I would not say necessarily is like high risk port unless it's an outdated Apache server. Then of course that changes some, and that could go over into more of a high risk. But essentially, all that I'm saying is that if you're going to work around a little bit with development, I'd say by all means jump straight into learning how to work Backpack and jump right into PHP with this beautiful framework we've got here. Anyway, thanks for checking it out, and hopefully you have fun. Thanks. Bye.